Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Patrick Vickers, founder of the Advanced Gerson Therapy Clinic. Back in 1999, I lived with the iconic Charlotte Gerson, the last living daughter of Dr. Max Gerson, who Nobel Peace Prize winner Dr. Albert Schweitzer, who is actually considered the greatest Christian of his generation. He called Dr. Gerson one of the most eminent geniuses in medical history. Dr. Gerson was reversing virtually every single degenerative disease, most notably terminal cancer. Dr. Albert Schweitzer, 8 years before he won the Nobel Prize himself, was suffering from advanced diabetes, and Dr. Gerson cured him in 6 weeks. And Schweitzer's wife, Helena, she had terminal tuberculosis. She had 6 months to live, and Dr. Gerson completely cured her as well. Their daughter, Raina, when she was just 4 years old, the Schweitzer's daughter, Raina, she had an undecipherable skin condition, which Dr. Gerson himself completely cured, all using the same treatment. 3 different conditions, all using the same treatment, successfully treated. So I always get the question, well, why is the Gerson therapy so successful? What's the secret to the Gerson therapy? Why have 8 movies chronicled Dr. Gerson's work when no other therapy can remotely boast but one, if that? Why is the Gerson therapy historically so successful? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. If you read in Dr. Gerson's book that he wrote in 1958 and published shortly before his death, there's one word that stood out over and over and over again in that book that he wrote, and that book was metabolism. Even today, you'll hear that all these diseases, they're metabolic diseases. But what does that mean? That's never really clearly explained to us. What are the implications of what that term means? These are metabolic diseases. Well, Gerson was talking about metabolism back in 1910 when he first discovered his therapy. So what does it mean when we're talking about metabolism? Gerson clearly understood that all these diseases were related to the breakdown in metabolism. And metabolism defined is the breakdown of food into energy. The breakdown of food into energy is the definition of metabolism. So Gerson instinctively understood that if he was going to reverse disease, he had to restore metabolism. And everything we've done from the day we're born to the day we get sick is designed to completely destroy metabolism. Again, the breakdown of food into energy. This is why all these diseases today that are running rampant in society have been called metabolic diseases. Our bodies create energy. We are energetic creatures. When we die, our body stops producing energy. Our immune system needs massive amounts of energy on a daily basis just to maintain a healthy immune system, let alone cure a sick and dying one. That's why when you see someone who's sick and or dying, what do you notice? They're lethargic. Why are they lethargic? Because they've lost the capacity to produce energy on a cellular level. And you must be able to restore this if you are going to restore human health. So in the next 2 videos, it's going to be a part 2, this 2-part series. We're going to talk about metabolism and what that means as it relates to human health, human disease, and the basic essential foundations of life. So we're going to talk about the first 2 aspects of metabolism, and in the next video, we're going to talk about the remaining 2 aspects of metabolism, because it is a 4-pronged process if you are going to restore proper metabolism, which is the breakdown of food, again, into energy. How does the body create energy? It's simple. It creates it with sugar and oxygen. So your body takes sugar and it enters into the cell, and inside your cell you have these little things called mitochondria. Mitochondria, if oxygen is present, will convert that sugar into energy. Now, that sugar also requires all the nutrients that should be in your food, which really aren't today because of all the processed, nutrient deficient foods that we're eating. But theoretically, the foods we eat that contain sugar also contain all the nutrients that we need to run it through the energy cycle. So for the human body to make energy, you need sugar, you need oxygen, and you need all the available nutrients that should be in that food that we're eating. That's how the body produces energy. But as I mentioned, from the day we're born to the day we get sick, we do everything humanly possible to destroy the body's ability to convert food into energy. So let's talk about, how do you restore proper metabolism? Well, if metabolism is the breakdown of food into energy, where does the breakdown of food take place? It starts where? In the digestive tract, right? Well, is it any wonder that in natural medicine we're taught that 70% of your immune system is where? In the gut. 70% of your immune system is in your digestive tract. So if we're going to restore health on any level, we have to start with the gut. Now there's only one way to heal the gut, and that's food. Plain and simple, that's food. There's no mistake that Hippocrates, who to this day is considered the greatest physician that ever lived, he said what? Let food be your medicine, and let medicine be your food. You can't heal the gut on supplements. You can't heal the gut on probiotics. You can't heal the gut on glutamine. There's no magic pill, no magic chemical you can take that's going to heal the gut. They can serve as valuable adjuncts with a proper regimen in healing the gut, but the way you heal the gut is with food. And Gerson instinctively understood that, and on the Gerson therapy, you get 20 pounds of organic fruits and vegetables every single day, mostly in the form of juices. So those are going through the gut, healing the epithelial lining, restoring leaky gut syndrome, which everyone has today. And that is the first aspect of metabolism that you must heal. Remember, metabolism is the breakdown of food into energy. And with all the abuse of antibiotics, drugs, all these processed foods, the toxins in our environment, the stress levels, we have destroyed that very basic foundation of breaking down your food into energy, and that is the gut. So on the Gerson therapy, those juices are getting converted into energy and healing the gut quicker than anything can possibly do it. Now, on our advanced Gerson therapy, we're adding some things to that to enhance the healing of the gut. Like we give pure, raw, unadulterated aloe vera. That's also going towards healing the gut. So those three things in conjunction with one another, and we're giving probiotics, right? We're giving probiotics that obviously are an absolutely instrumental part of a healthy gut tract, is a proper biological flora, again, that we've destroyed through the abuse of antibiotics and all the other things, that we're putting into our systems. So the way Dr. Gerson addressed healing the gut, plain and simple, was food. I mean, he was essentially a student of Hippocrates. He derived his work and understanding of the human body and nutrition from Hippocrates and Paracelsus. And so when Hippocrates said, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food, Dr. Gerson immediately took that to heart. Now, once you heal the gut, you're now actually able to properly restore the body's ability to break down nutrients and absorb those nutrients into the bloodstream. Now you have to get those sugars and those nutrients and oxygen into the cell so those little mitochondria can convert it into energy. And so now we have to talk about the second phase of metabolism, and that occurs at the level of the cell membrane. And from the day we're born to the day we get sick, we do everything humanly possible to destroy that aspect of metabolism. What am I talking about? Again, here's your cell. Around your cell, you have a cell membrane. That cell membrane is made up of what? It's made up of fats. Well, what kind of fats is it made up of? It's made up of whatever fats you're feeding it. Whatever fats you're eating, your body is naturally going to use to make up and restore and maintain the cell membranes? Well, those cell membranes are the gatekeepers to your cell. It determines what can go into that cell, what can't go into that cell, what has to come out of that cell, and what can't go out of that cell. That's all determined at the level of the cell membrane. And it's all based on the electrical charge at the level of the cell membrane. And it's the fat content at the level of the cell membrane that determines what can go in and what can go out, because it's the fat content that determines the electrical charge. Now, why is this important? What did we say that the mitochondria need in order to convert the sugar into energy? You need oxygen. You need oxygen. Without oxygen, you cannot convert sugar into energy. And if oxygen is not present in the cell for the mitochondria to convert sugar into energy, well, what happens? Well, how do you make alcohol? You cut sugar off from its oxygen source and it ferments. And so the same thing's going to happen in the cell. Is there any wonder why we say that cancer is fermentative and fungal in nature? Because it survives in an anaerobic environment. In 1931, Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize in Medicine for proving cancer viruses and bacteria cannot survive in a highly oxygenated body. And he went on to describe that the body's primary ability to keep cells oxygenated and tissues oxygenated is completely based on an alkaline diet, which we're going to get into in a second. So, today, our cell membranes are made up of the fats that we're feeding it. Well, what kind of fats is everyone eating today? Cookies, cake, ice cream, meat, cheese, dairy. If you read your labels, you read the ingredients on your labels, the food you buy, you'll see partially hydrogenated oil. Companies have learned they can bubble hydrogen into their products and they can store it on the shelves till Christ comes home. And so today, what are we eating? We are eating massive amounts of saturated fats. And those saturated fats are going to make up our cell membranes. Why is this significant? When we define fats, fats are carbon chains. They can be long carbon chains, they can be medium carbon chains, or they can be short carbon chains. And they're defined based on their saturation or no saturation with fat. Now, when we say saturated fat, what are those carbon chains saturated with? They're saturated with hydrogen. So weighed fats are defined as based on their saturation with hydrogen. A saturated fat, like cholesterol, that blocks arteries, like coconut oil, which is hard at room temperature, those are completely saturated fats, meaning that those carbon chains are completely saturated with hydrogen. What's the significance of this? How many times have you heard that an alkaline diet promotes health and an acidic diet promotes disease? We hear that constantly. But nobody ever really explains what does that mean on a cellular level and what are the health implications of those two terms. Well, when we're talking about alkalinity and acidity, what are we talking about? We're talking about pH, right? pH. Well, what is pH? pH is potential hydrogen. Potential hydrogen. What are saturated fats saturated with? Hydrogen. So the definition of acidity, which promotes disease, is the buildup of hydrogen in the body, particularly at the level of that cell membrane, because of the saturated content that we're dealing with. So, what are the health implications of that kind of a diet going to make up the cell membrane with saturated fats? What are the health implications? It's simple. This is biochemistry 101. Everything that you're going to learn in these 2 videos on metabolism, I learned in the first 2 to 3 weeks at New York Chiropractic College in my biochemistry class, Biochem 101. They didn't teach us that it was the secret of health and reversing disease. They only taught it as the very basic, essential foundations of life. When we die, we stop producing energy, plain and simple. And so the implications of having cell membranes made up of saturated fats is this. As oxygen approaches that cell, it must get into the cell in order for the mitochondria to be able to convert sugar into energy, just like a fire. If a fire can't have oxygen, it's going to go out. And the mitochondria are no different. They are the fire lighting agents of your body. Well, when your cell membranes are made up of saturated fats, as oxygen goes and approaches that cell, the charge at the level of the cell membrane cannot accept it, and it literally gets repelled away. So the true definition of acidity is the improper utilization of oxygen by the body. Alkalinity, acidity. Alkalinity promotes health, acidity promotes disease. This is it. If there's anything you can take away from this video, that's it right there. We must get oxygen into the cell. We cannot do it if the cell membrane isn't charged properly so that it can accept oxygen. There's other implications of that as well. You can't properly assimilate nutrients. You cannot properly detoxify because all that's determined at the level of the cell membrane. You must have the proper charge at the level of the cell membrane. Plain and simple. And so on the Gerson diet, there's absolutely no saturated fat. None. The only fat on the Gerson therapy is raw flax oil. And that raw flax oil is pure medicine. Why? If I take coconut oil, and I take olive oil, and I take flax oil, and I put it in the freezer overnight, take them out in the morning, they're all frozen solid. For me to get 2 to 3 tablespoons of coconut oil out of that coconut oil jar, it's going to take me probably a good 3, 4, 5 hours because coconut oil is so highly saturated that it'll take that long for it to reach a melting point that I can scoop out 3 tablespoons of coconut oil. Olive oil, by definition, is a monosaturated fat, meaning that some of its bonds are saturated, some aren't. If I take that out of the freezer, it might take me a couple hours to get 3 tablespoons of nice, soft olive oil. When I take flax oil out of the freezer, it's frozen solid. In less than 5 minutes, it's completely liquid. Why? Because it has absolutely no saturated bonds. That's why it's called a polyunsaturated fat. Poly meaning many, all of its bonds are unsaturated. That makes it pure medicine. Because when you utilize that oil in order to restore the proper charge at the level of the cell membrane, you now can get oxygen into the cells. But even more importantly about flax oil, it literally draws oxygen into the cell like a magnet because of its electrical charge. It's pure medicine. Now on another note, a side note, diabetics. Today your diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is not a sugar issue. It's a metabolic issue. The inability of converting sugar into energy. But it's not a sugar issue. It's actually an issue of fats. For this very reason. Glucose accumulates in the bloodstream because it can't get into the cell to be broken down into energy. One, for the very purpose that I just mentioned, but mainly because you have cholesterol, a highly saturated fat, occupying insulin receptor sites, i.e., another definition of that is the metabolic syndrome. Do you know what that flax oil does when it enters the body, what it does to cholesterol? Cholesterol's hard at body temperature. That's why it can clog arteries. That's why it can block insulin receptor sites, because it's just hanging out on the insulin receptor sites, blocking insulin from carrying glucose into the cell. That flax oil, when it meets up with cholesterol, can literally dissolve it into solution. So it breaks it down from being hard into virtually liquefying it. So it just falls off the cells. Is it any wonder that Nobel Peace Prize winner Dr. Albert Schweitzer was cured of advanced diabetes in 6 weeks by his best friend, Dr. Gerson? No, this is simple science. That's what made Gerson such a finely packaged genius, his ability to take simple science and applicate it to the human body. So, of the 4 aspects of metabolism, we've just addressed the first 2 that we must heal after decades of destroying those aspects of metabolism. We had to heal the gut, which you can only do with food. We do it with food, aloe vera, and raw spirulina. We give probiotics as well. We give Saccharomyces boulardii, which is a probiotic that's often overlooked even by your natural practitioners, a vital component of the digestive tract, Saccharomyces boulardii. We give Shan Stratton's Restore Health probiotic, which has 13 or 14 different strains of probiotic, which you can get on our store, GersonClinics.com, Gerson Clinics, plural.com. We sell these things on our site for our patients. So if you're interested, feel free. They're available to you as well. But we use Shan Stratton's probiotics. Shan Stratton was the nutritionist to all the pro teams. Major League Baseball, NFL, some of his clients are Maria Sharapova, Larry Fitzgerald, Kurt Warner. They're all clients of Shan's. They were taking his probiotics. Well, his probiotics, unlike most probiotics, have 13 or 14 different strains of beneficial bacteria, where your standard probiotics typically have about 5 or 6, okay? So, we're using those to restore the gut. Then we go and we have to restore the cell membrane with the proper fats. So it's a no saturated fat diet, polyunsaturates in the form of flax oil only. Gerson tried every oil. The only oil he found that did not cause cancer to grow was flax oil. And it has to be raw, you can't cook with it. So this is how you properly begin to restore human health. Again, when you see someone who's sick and or dying, what do you notice? They're lethargic. Why are they lethargic? Because they've lost the capacity to produce energy on a cellular level. Metabolism, metabolism, metabolism. It was mentioned over and over again in Dr. Gerson's book that he wrote shortly before he died in 1959. And even today, we now know these are metabolic diseases. What is the precipitating or one of the greatest risk factors in determining whether or not someone will get cancer in their lifetime? Obesity. Is it any wonder? If obesity isn't a metabolic problem, I don't know what is. All right? So these are the first 2 aspects of metabolism that we must restore if we're going to maintain health. And in the next video, I'm going to address the final 2 aspects of metabolism that, again, we have destroyed from the day we're born to the day we get sick. So if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to visit our website, www.GersonClinic.com. And you can also visit our store, GersonClinics.com, as I'm going to present to you a lot of the supplement protocol that Dr. Gerson put his patients on, which we offer in our store. So subscribe to our channel, visit our website, visit our Facebook page, Dr. Patrick Vickers, or Advanced Gerson Therapy Clinic.